The Ural Mountains stretch for over 2,500 kilometers across western Russia and Kazakhstan. A resource-rich mountain range, they have been a cornerstone of the Russian economy for many hundreds of years. The harsh, snow-covered climate is one that many explorers have entered to see the breathtaking landscape for centuries, with many hiking expeditions heading out into the mountains. On the 1st and 2nd of February 1959, however, 9 Russian hikers died in horrific and unexplained circumstances. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident. In January 1959, Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student, put together a group of 9 other keen hikers to head off into the Ural mountain range. Their plan was to head to a small village named Vizhai on the edge of the mountains and attempt to pass through a difficult 10-kilometer trek to reach Gora or Torton, a large peak located therein. The group initially consisted of 10 individuals, aged between 20 to 38, 8 men and 2 women. The group had planned to arrive in Vizhai on the evening of the 27th of January, purchasing supplies before heading out the next day for their goal of Gora or Torton. While 10 hikers initially left on the second day of their trek, Yuri Yudin, a member of the group, became unwell and turned back, an action that undoubtedly saved his life. The 9 other hikers decided that they would continue on as a group toward their goal. Weeks later, nobody had heard from the group. What happened to them on the mountain is something that would forever remain shrouded in mystery. While the group had initially planned to be back in Vizhai by the 12th of February, conversation between Igor and Yudin before he departed the group had indicated that the weather could be an issue, with severe snowstorms expected, and as a result, concerns did not become raised about the group's whereabouts until the 20th of February, when a search began in earnest. Following the hikers' planned routes, searchers found the initial remnants of the group on the 26th of February in incredibly disturbing and unusual circumstances. The hikers' tent, filled with snow, was only half up, with nobody inside, and most disturbingly, the group's shoes lay scattered around the campsite, with footprints indicating bare feet, or people wearing just one shoe, heading out in all directions into the snow. While falling snow had obscured some of the footprints, following these eventually allowed the rescue team to find the first 2 victims of the incident. Next to a campfire down the mountain from the original camp, 2 bodies were found. Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko were inexplicably naked except for their underwear. The camp was in a wooded area with a large tree nearby with cracked branches on this, indicating that perhaps somebody had attempted to climb said tree to survey the landscape. Nearby, 3 more bodies were found. Rustam Slobodin, Zinaida Kolmarova, and group leader Igor Dyatlov were all found dead in a similar situation to the first 2 corpses. It was indicated by researchers that the poses the corpses were found in would indicate they were trying to make it back up the mountain to their tent. All of the victims had died of hypothermia. It would take several months to find the remaining 4 bodies in the harsh conditions, and what would be found would be even more inexplicable than what already had occurred. In early May, the remaining 4 bodies were found. Helicopters and the army had been utilized by this point in an attempt to find the remaining hikers. Of the 4 bodies located, 1 had died much in the way of the others, hypothermia. The other 3, however, were of the most interest to the investigation. The cold had not killed the other 3. They had all succumbed to fatal injuries. They were found in a river, in a ravine. Serious damage to both the head and chest areas were prevalent on all 3 of the remaining bodies. Experts concluded the degree of force needed to deliver such horrific injuries to these people was similar to that of a car crash. Obviously, there were no cars on the mountain. Even more disturbingly was it appeared other trauma had been inflicted post-mortem, with Dubinina missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips, and with similar bizarre injuries inflicted on the other two bodies. There was no indication of a struggle or any kind of fight, and the theory they were attacked by wild animals or perhaps local reindeer herders was quickly dismissed as a result. The bodies were only partially dressed once again. Finally, and perhaps most bizarrely of all, one of the victims' clothes contained very high amounts of radiation. Where had it come from? The Russian authorities ordered an investigation into what had happened, and as a result, many theories have been floated as to what happened to the hapless hikers. Eventually, the official cause of death in 1959 was recorded as being caused by an avalanche. A conclusion did not seem to have a huge amount of evidence behind it. There was no sign of an avalanche on site, the footprints indicated none of the hikers had been running in fear, and the area was commonly hiked with no previous trips to the region ever indicating that it was at risk from avalanche, nor suffering from any avalanches. That leaves us with a bunch of other theories, some of which are pretty ridiculous, like a Yeti attack, for example, but others I'm going to go through here. Another theory floated is that of a katabatic wind, which is when wind that carries high-density air from a high elevation goes down a slope with a force similar to that of a hurricane. I must admit, I don't really understand that myself, but the theory is that when this occurred, the hikers fled to the tree line to seek shelter, where things obviously went wrong. The fact that their tent was filled with snow would indicate perhaps they were trying to weigh the tent down before they got away, so they would not lose the tent in the future. The book Dead Mountain, which was written in 2013 by Donnie Eichar, popularized the theory that infrasound, generated by the wind going through the mountain range, could have caused the sound that triggered panic attacks in humans in the area, causing them to behave irrationally. Again, there isn't a huge amount to back this up, but perhaps it would explain the unusual behavior of the hikers once they had left the tent. There are also theories relating to Soviet military tests occurring in the area, with people wondering if full-blown conspiracies are involved. It is theorized the hikers were killed by the test of a weapon, perhaps parachute mines, and then the bodies were laid out by the military afterwards in order to cover up the fact that this incident had occurred. Similar theories have been laid out with radioactive weapons being used on the hikers. This is mainly attributed to, at the hikers' funeral, they were perceived to having discolored skin on their corpses, but this discoloration can be attributed to the natural mummification process of being on the mountain, dead, exposed to the elements for so long. So this kind of eliminates the radiation theory, although it is very unusual that one of the bodies had radiation on it, and I couldn't really find any theories that would show where that radiation had come from other than a radioactive weapon. Another theory would be hypothermia. A symptom of this can be paradoxical undressing. This would mean the hikers would be suffering from severe hypothermia. They would remove their clothes in the delusional perception that they were too warm, when in fact it was actually the cold burning them. It is worth noting, however, that if they were suffering from this delusion, the hikers would not have behaved rationally at all, and there is evidence that some of them tried to remove clothes from those who had already expired in order to stay warm themselves, meaning this theory does not hold out too well. Where most theories agree is the 4 bodies with serious injuries. It's likely, for whatever reason, they fell down the ravine. Whether it was panic or just accidentally while they were moving, perhaps it was weak ice and they fell through the ice down the ravine. That is undoubtedly what happened in my eyes. They landed on the rocks below, causing horrific crushing injuries. The removal of the eyes, etc., is attributed to the bodies being in a river for an extended period of time, because that's where they're found. The water causing damage to the face and eyeballs, etc. Personally, I, and nobody else, really knows what happened to the hikers that day. I feel the most rational idea is that of a small snow slip causing them to leave their tents. They then weighed the tent down in order to stop it getting pushed away by the small snow slip, not a full-blown avalanche, and they left for the tree line without their supplies, thinking everything would carry on as normal. But as a result of inexperience, the group made some fatal errors that eventually led to their demise. That idea in itself still has plenty of holes in it, but it's the closest that I can put together myself as to what happened. But I'm sure many people have many other different theories that they believe are firmly concrete. What happened to those hikers on that day in Dyatlov Pass? We will likely never know. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this video. I hope you enjoyed. I want to do more real-life horror mini-documentaries like this, but I would really, really like your thoughts on what occurred here. I tried to blend a mix of scripted storytelling with giving my opinions and that kind of thing. What did you think? This is the first time I've ever made a video like this. I've been putting it off for ages because I've been genuinely scared about making it, which is kind of silly, but it's something I was a bit worried about. So I would really, really like your feedback below, and I really hope you enjoyed. I have plenty more of these that I'd like to do, and we'll see how this one is received and take it from there. Please like and comment. It really does help us out. I'd really like to make this like a flagship series on the channel eventually, doing them every few weeks if I could. So, yeah, stay nom, stay awesome, and I really hope you enjoyed. That was the Dyatlov Pass incident. More to come.